When you are learning a foreign language, at what point should you start learning from authentic, natural content that's meant for native speakers, like normal books, TV shows, interviews of your favorite bands, and stuff like that, whatever interests you? This is an important question because if you stay for too long with boring like language learning textbooks, you will probably get bored with learning that language at some point. I mean, it can be quite interesting also to discover the basics of the language and get used to the new grammar rules and the exotic pronunciation and stuff like that. But I think for most people, the most fun part is when you're able to understand stand-up comedy or whatever TV shows and natural conversations in that foreign language, and if you only stay with these textbooks with very simple dialogues, that's just not going to happen. So yeah, a lot of people feel that they are not ready yet. Maybe they just don't have the courage to grab that comic book in a natural language. And they may feel that, for example, they have to learn a lot of the grammar before, like they have to know all the irregular verbs and all of their conjugations before they can open a book in that target language. But when you're reading something authentic, when you're listening to stuff, you get exposed to those irregular verbs. So you will hear that verb many times and read it. That way you'll get kind of naturally used to the different conjugations, at least for most of the different forms of verbs. Of course, you can watch TV shows with English subtitles or some other subtitles, and that can be a way to pick up some of the language and to enjoy a bit of that target language's culture. And that yeah, I've been doing that myself also, and it's a way to connect with the culture also and hear music. Many TV shows and movies have really nice music and songs in that target language, and that can give you a different emotional connection to that language. I just want to remind you that if that's the only thing you're doing in that language and you want to learn that language, then you are probably not making much progress in reality, because most of that language will probably in the TV shows be so fast that it will just become like background noise, and you'll be just reading the subtitles. But yeah, as a bit of a spice for learning that language, increasing your motivation, after your kind of language learning session, it can be useful thing to do to watch some TV shows or listen to music in your target language. And obviously, it depends what language you are learning. Like, do you know a similar language already? For example, if you are learning Italian and you already know Spanish, then you can probably start enjoying at least some kind of books, maybe simple comics or graphic novels already from day one. I would say I knew a lot of Spanish before I started learning Italian, and yeah, I started reading natural conversations from the Link website already, I think, within the first few days. it was a bit of a struggle, but in the Link website and in their app, you can, if you just press a word or phrase, it will show the meaning. So that made it easier. It's good to remember that if you move on to the more authentic content, you might get a little discouraged because there will be quite many words that you don't know. So it's maybe better to get a more strong foundation first. But if you can handle that, and if you really have something that you're interested in, some topic that you're passionate about, having a lot of new words, it's not necessarily such a big problem, because you really want to understand what they are saying there. You want to know what happens in that comic, for example, so you don't mind checking the dictionary a bit more often, and you may be reading a book or a comic that you're already very familiar with. So I've heard some people have watched the TV show Friends like 15 times until they know the lines by heart, or they've read Harry Potter 5 times, and if they start watching those or reading those kind of familiar pieces of art, then they may be able to just guess a lot of the language because they're so familiar with that book or TV show, or if they know about that topic a lot. And it's also an interesting question, like, should you be using a dictionary a lot when you're reading? I know it can be a little painful to kind of let go of some words and phrases that you don't understand, but it may be better just to read fast, get exposed to as much of the language as possible, as long as you understand at least significant portion of the text, because you will guess a lot of the meaning from the context, and that way you may end up learning much more than if you were to check every word that you don't know. It may be better to be prepared to read that same book or comic a few times. So finding some book or piece of art that you would enjoy consuming multiple times, and not checking so many words from the dictionary, and just read pretty fast. And you can check some words, but yeah, if you check too many of the words, it kind of breaks the flow of the reading and makes it feel too much like studying. So yeah, that's also something to keep in mind. And also, if you use dictionary from your phone, I want to warn you that at least I've had the problem that if there are some addictive social media application, dating apps, or whatever is kind of addictive to you, because of that, it may be better to use a dictionary from a tablet, for example, and you delete all of the kind of dangerous apps that or messaging apps from that tablet. So if you don't have a strong basis yet in that language that you are learning, here are a few tips to get the basics under your belt. I highly recommend using the textbook Assimil. Many experienced language learners consider that the best textbook because it has so many dialogues and high quality audio. It's also important to have a daily language learning habit. I know it can sound rough with busy life that we have. But the truth is that we need quite many words to get the basics, and having a daily habit will make the process a lot faster. And the feeling of progress you get from a daily language learning habit, feels good. And when you're going through that textbook, Asimil, hopefully, there are other good ones also. Make sure you have the audio also available, so you listen to the dialogues multiple times, and don't listen to them only on one day. But yeah, when you listen to them multiple times on multiple days, it will become a bit like music. Like the dialogues will become like earworms that you hear, all the time, and you will absorb a lot of the language just naturally that way. And read it at least a couple of times to make sure you really understand the meaning, or at least most of the meaning. Reading graded readers is also a good way to increase your basic vocabulary. So graded readers have like simplified language, but they can still have pretty interesting stories, like crime stories or historical stories, and that can be a fun way to increase your vocabulary. YouTube has nice videos for beginners also. Like there are people who show their hometown and speak in slow language. At Link you can also find texts with audio on many levels, and Link has also natural conversations and some slower conversations. So yeah, I want to just remind you to have a little courage also to take the step of at least trying native level content that is interesting to you, topics that are interesting. There are so many different kinds of content, and I'm pretty sure you will find something that will touch your passions, so to speak. So yeah, let me know how it goes, and I'm happy to read your comments and see how your language learning journeys are going. Yep, see ya.